Hi, my name is Aaron Leonard. I'm a senior program manager with PACT in Myanmar. I'm actually broadcasting on top of Yangon. This is my 1-minute selfie on the impact of DPMI on my life. DPMI gave voice to me, well, helped me give voice to the thing that I always wanted to do and didn't know what to call, and that is capacity development. I've since, I think it was 8 years ago, since that moment I changed my major. I joined PACT. I learned all about capacity development. I took it to the World Bank, did some interesting, fun things there. And now I've come back to PACT to work on local governance and civil society strengthening in a country in major transition. A really exciting time with really great people. So I would say this is what DPMI did for me. Helped me figure out what the hell I was doing with my life. And I'd say it worked out pretty well. So thank you, Beryl, Evan, Claudia, and everyone else who helped make it happen. Thanks. Bye.
My name is Flores. I'm an international policy studies student, and my concentration is human security and development, and I'm graduating in May. I learned how to look at problems in a new way. I definitely learned a new perspective, I guess. One of the modules that I really enjoyed was one where we focused on positive deviance and asking appreciative inquiries. It was just like a really interesting way of looking at a problem. Instead of focusing on the negative and on the issues on hand, you focus on people who are doing something different. You try to see why they're doing something different and elaborate further and learn from what they're doing to resolve the problem, instead of just always focusing on what is going wrong and what people are doing wrong. And a lot of what we learned in DPMI, I've seen that I've been able to use with the whole prize, with the social enterprise that we're creating. It's been incredibly useful, and it's given us a new way to look at a problem. And I think that was one of the reasons we were so successful in the whole prize, is we came to this competition with a different perspective, and we were able to look at a problem that everyone had the same problem, and we were able to look at it in such a different way. And a lot of that has to do with our experience in Rwanda, because our project for the whole prize, the social enterprise that we created, was actually inspired by our trip to Rwanda, because we saw what was working in Rwanda, how they utilized community health workers to help implement some of the government policies and to affect change in the healthcare system. And we saw how effective it was with reducing HIV rates, and we decided to apply that model and take it from the Rwandan context and apply it in Mexico, because we saw how effective it was in Rwanda, and we thought that it could also be very effective with a few minor changes in Mexico as well. So that actually inspired our social enterprise, and we've been using all of the tools that we learned at DPMI to develop our idea and our business proposal, and we are looking forward to moving forward with our business plan. We learned about the competition before we went to Rwanda, and we applied before we went, so we knew what this year's theme for the competition was going to be, and it was non-communicable diseases in urban slums. And when we got to Rwanda, it turns out that it was actually Rwanda had a huge influence on non-communicable diseases being this year's theme, because they were trying to bring attention to this major problem, because the focus has always been in terms of health, like global health has been cancer, like the big ones like HIV, AIDS, and now that they have been able to reduce the HIV rates and kind of have managed it, and they are trying to shed light on these new killers. Or I guess not new killers, they've always been around, but HIV has always been the biggest killer, that all the resources and attention have always been focused to HIV, that it's taken away the attention from major health issues like diabetes, obesity, and these are killing millions and millions of people, and it affects people in the low income because they don't have access to health care, and various other reasons that it's very detrimental, in particular to people in low income countries. So they created an initiative to raise awareness and to tackle this problem in Rwanda And I don't know who it inspired. I think it was someone in the UN, and that led to it getting on, creating some global awareness, and then other countries and people in the UN and the World Health Organizations are realizing, like, yeah, this is the next problem, and everyone's focused on like the really sexy, diseases, and aren't paying, like malaria, HIV, and they're not paying attention to things like diabetes and obesity, because a lot of people think that's a developed country problem, that they don't realize the impact that it's actually having on these low income countries, because these foods and these diets and lifestyles are now starting to trickle down to these developing countries, and so more people are dying from these diseases than from HIV or malaria.
So my name is George Payne, and I'm an IEM MPA student here at the Monterey Institute. I'll be graduating at the end of 2015. Okay, the trip to Rwanda was incredible. I got a chance to participate with approximately 25 other students in Rwanda on the ground, working with an organization called Partners in Health, wherein we created a series of social marketing campaigns for them to implement at their leisure. So our specific group focused on creating a campaign for under 5 mortality, and other groups focused on HIV and AIDS, or pregnant mothers, other specific aspects of really debilitating diseases and conditions that the Rwandan country is going through right now. So that was what we focused on, and the DPMI portion of it really allowed us to understand what it's like to manage a project or go through the motions of creating a timetable so that things are easily scheduled and understood by all the members of a team. We started off by getting a chance to understand the cultural nuances that we were going to be involved in for the rest of the week, or the 2 weeks that we were there. So on the very first day, we went to the Gisozi Memorial, which is basically the Rwandan Genocide Memorial, and that kind of framed our context for who we're going to be speaking with, the people and their experiences prior to us having gotten there. Then from there, we got a chance to talk to a series of professionals who were involved in the peace and reconciliation efforts. So there were people who were involved in what they call the gacaca, which is bringing 2 families or 2 people together, one wherein has wronged the other by some way, and they can come up with their own solution on the spot, or over a series of conversations to alleviate that tension that's been fostered, especially during the genocide times when families would get turned against families, and people who knew each other generally had done each other wrong. That was something we got a chance to understand. DPMI is very, very applicable. The very first class of the very first week, I got a chance to at least call upon some of the things that I knew that I had learned in the previous 2 weeks, especially in a class called Design and Assessment, wherein my IEM cohort is partnered with a series of clients who need a design assessment or monitoring and evaluation program to be developed for them. I personally have gotten a chance to use it in my work at the DLC, which has allowed me to kind of spearhead my own personal project, learn what it's like to create my own timetable and all of the various aspects and how to delegate. So I think the DPMI is spot on. So what I want to do with my career after being here at MIS has everything to do with education first, which is the first half of my concentration here, and the second half has to do with learning how to do development work. So the combination between those 2 things will hopefully allow me to create programming that will enable primary school children to communicate with each other in their native languages, so they can teach each other languages, and we can cut out us older middle peoples, because I think that we add things to children's education when it has to go through us as a medium. So if they were to speak directly to one another, then they can solve their own communication issues without us being in the middle of it. So that's the idea, especially between the United States and the Middle East and African